Welcome to another deep dive. I love getting to really dig into these topics, and this one is no exception. This time we're taking a close look at fibromyalgia, and I have to say I'm already fascinated just reading through the material you sent over. Those excerpts from that book, what was it called again?
Understanding and Treating Fibromyalgia, a Holistic Guide.
Right. Understanding and Treating Fibromyalgia, a Holistic Guide. Really paint a picture of how this condition is so much more than just dealing with pain. It seems like it really impacts the whole body.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we get too far into that, maybe you can give us a little bit of a high-level view here. What exactly is it that makes fibromyalgia so unique?
Well, fibromyalgia is a chronic condition, and it affects millions of people worldwide, mostly women.
All right.
And it involves, the kind of typical stuff you think of with pain: a widespread musculoskeletal pain, fatigue, tenderness in different areas. But what's really interesting and unique is the fact that we still don't fully understand what causes it.
Oh, interesting.
And that's kind of what makes this deep dive so interesting, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to unravel this really complex condition.
It sounds like from the book that there's a lot of different factors that could be at play.
Yeah.
Did any of those kind of jump out at you as you were reading through the material?
Yeah, there's a bunch, and they all seem very much intertwined. But the book highlights genetics as one potential factor.
Okay.
Meaning that certain genes might make you more likely to develop fibromyalgia.
So it could be hereditary in a sense.
Exactly. And then it gets into this really interesting concept called central sensitization, which essentially means that your brain and spinal cord are kind of misinterpreting pain signals.
So they're experiencing pain differently, not necessarily more pain.
Yeah, it's like the volume control on your pain perception is turned way up.
Wow. Okay, so that's a huge difference then.
Huge difference.
What about trauma? Did the book touch on that at all?
They did, yeah. They highlight that both physical and emotional trauma, even stuff that happened in the past, can be linked to the development of fibromyalgia.
Okay.
And they even mention a connection to PTSD.
Wow, so there's a real mental and emotional component there too then.
For sure. It's not just about the physical sensations.
That makes me think, does trauma contribute to developing fibromyalgia, or does living with this condition make you more susceptible?
Right. It's a really complicated question,
Yeah,
but a fascinating one.
definitely.
Were there any other potential causes that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, reading through it really struck me how they talked about sleep as a factor.
Yes, absolutely. Sleep plays a dual role.
Oh, really?
It's both a symptom of fibromyalgia and a potential contributor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when you have disrupted deep sleep, that can actually increase your pain sensitivity and fatigue, which obviously just makes everything worse.
Right, so it's like this vicious cycle. You can't sleep well because of fibromyalgia, and not sleeping well just makes the symptoms worse.
Exactly.
So I guess working on that sleep could be a good first step to managing the condition as a whole.
It could definitely be a big part of it, yeah.
Now, the book didn't just focus on the pain aspect.
Yeah.
It also talked about all these other symptoms that come along with fibromyalgia.
Right.
What were some of those that stood out to you?
Well, apart from the pain, one of the most debilitating symptoms is this intense fatigue.
Okay.
And we're not just talking about being tired. It's like this exhaustion that just doesn't go away,
Oh, wow.
even after a full night's sleep.
So is it something to do with energy production in the body? Maybe?
That's one possibility the book explores. And, while sleep disturbances definitely contribute, there might be a deeper issue with how the body produces and utilizes energy.
Oh.
But more research is needed.
Absolutely. The book also mentioned something called fibrofog, which I have to admit I'd never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
What is that exactly?
Yeah, so fibrofog describes all the cognitive challenges that people with fibromyalgia often face.
Okay.
Basically, picture a really intense brain fog.
Okay.
It's hard to concentrate, memory problems, word-finding difficulties.
Wow.
All those things that make even simple tasks feel incredibly overwhelming.
So not only are there the physical limitations, but there are also these cognitive challenges that come along with it too.
Exactly. It affects both the body and the mind.
And you said it was chronic, so this is not something that's just like a one-off thing every now and then.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's something that can persist over time.
Okay.
So it's really important to understand this aspect because it can have a huge impact on daily life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've already covered so much and we're just getting started. This is a really complex condition,
Oh, absolutely.
but we're going to keep diving deeper in the next part of our deep dive. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
And it's not just the fog itself, it's that it's often made worse by those sleep problems we were talking about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it really compounds things.
Yeah, definitely. We talked earlier about how important that deep sleep is, for the body to repair itself and regulate things.
Mm-hmm.
And the book also mentions headaches and migraines as being pretty common with fibromyalgia.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Is that connected to the sleep issues, or is there something else going on there?
It's probably a bit of both. You've got this constant pain, stress, and then you add in the sleep problems. And yeah, it's not surprising that people end up with headaches and migraines. It's like the body's just in this constant state of tension.
Right.
And that can manifest in head pain.
Makes sense. It's crazy how it's not just these isolated symptoms. It's like everything's connected.
Exactly.
One connection that really surprised me was the link between fibromyalgia and irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. You can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprising one for a lot of people, but there's a pretty strong link between the two. Many people with fibromyalgia experience all sorts of digestive issues, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal pain.
Wow.
And I think it really just highlights how this isn't just a pain condition. It
Right.
really affects the whole body in so many ways.
It really does. And not just internally, right?
No, not at all.
The book mentioned something about sensitivity to external things, too.
Yeah, a lot of people with fibromyalgia experience what's called sensory overload.
Okay.
Things that wouldn't really bother most people, like bright lights, loud noises, strong smells. Even just temperature changes can be really intense and even painful.
Wow. So on top of everything else, you've got this heightened sensitivity to the world around you.
Exactly.
The book didn't just dwell on the challenges, though. It also talked about some ways to manage these symptoms and improve quality of life. And I was really interested in all the holistic approaches it mentioned.
Oh, for sure. The book is really big on taking a holistic approach.
Okay.
It sees the body as one whole system and says you need to address all these different aspects and not just target individual symptoms.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. It feels more empowering than just relying on medication to mask the symptoms.
Right.
What kind of holistic treatments did they suggest?
Diet plays a big role. They advocate for an anti-inflammatory diet.
Okay.
So focusing on whole foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, and minimizing processed foods, sugar, artificial stuff like that.
So it's not really about deprivation then, it's just about making conscious choices to support the body's own healing.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
They also really emphasize getting enough omega-3 fatty acids, which are found in things like fatty fish, flax seeds, walnuts, all those good things, and staying hydrated, limiting caffeine and alcohol, things like that.
Sounds like a pretty balanced approach overall, actually.
It is, yeah.
Something that a lot of people could probably benefit from. What about exercise? I imagine that could be tough with chronic pain.
Oh, it definitely can be. Yeah. But the book emphasizes that gentle exercise can be really beneficial.
Okay.
They recommend low-impact activities like walking, swimming, cycling, and things like yoga and Tai Chi for flexibility and relaxation and to help with pain relief.
So just finding ways to move that feel good for the body without pushing too hard.
Right.
Did they mention anything about strength training at all?
They did. They suggested that strength training done carefully and gradually can really help improve muscle tone.
Okay.
And reduce stiffness, which can help manage the pain.
Yeah, because if you can build up some strength, you can support the body better, and that might relieve some of the strain.
Exactly.
What other holistic treatments were in the book?
Well, mind-body therapies were a big one. They emphasize how important it is to manage stress. And they talked about techniques like meditation, deep breathing exercises, acupuncture, massage therapy.
So it's about addressing the mental and emotional side of things, too.
Absolutely.
Which can sometimes be overlooked.
Yeah, and it's not just about relaxation either. They even mentioned chiropractic care.
Oh, interesting.
As a way to improve nervous system function and reduce pain.
It's crazy to think about all these different options that are out there. It's not just one size fits all.
No, not at all.
You really have to kind of figure out what works best for you as an individual.
For sure.
Did the book talk at all about using natural supplements to help manage the symptoms?
They did, but they were really careful to emphasize that these are things you should talk to your doctor about.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Not just start taking on your own. But they did mention things like magnesium for muscle relaxation and energy production, vitamin D, because deficiency is common in people with fibromyalgia.
Okay.
Turmeric for its anti-inflammatory properties.
Right.
And they even touched on CBD oil, which has been getting a lot of attention lately for its potential to reduce chronic pain and improve sleep.
So many different things to explore. I mean, it's really empowering to realize that there are options beyond just traditional medication.
It really is.
Reading through all this, it's just incredible to me how complex this condition really is.
It is.
There's no easy answer, no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
It really requires this multifaceted approach.
For sure.
That takes into account the physical, the mental, the emotional.
Absolutely.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Did you have any, aha moments as you were going through this material?
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest ones for me was realizing how important the gut microbiome is.
Oh, interesting.
The book touches on the connection between gut health and a bunch of different health conditions, including fibromyalgia.
We did talk about that link to IBS.
Right.
Is there a connection there, do you think?
There very well could be.
Okay.
There's more and more research coming out all the time about the link between the gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria that live in our gut.
Right.
And fibromyalgia. It seems like an imbalance in those bacteria, what they call dysbiosis, might actually contribute to inflammation and pain.
Wow.
And even affect the central nervous system.
So you're saying the bacteria in our gut could actually play a role in how severe the symptoms are?
It's definitely possible. It's an area that needs a lot more research.
Right.
But there's some pretty compelling evidence so far. And the book talks about the importance of prebiotics and probiotics in supporting a healthy microbiome.
Right, so that kind of ties back into that whole holistic approach.
Exactly. It's about nourishing the body from the inside out.
That's fascinating. So managing fibromyalgia might not just be about treating the symptoms.
Right.
It could also involve taking care of that gut microbiome through diet changes and maybe even probiotics.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment within the body that supports healing and balance.
Right. And it's not just about what you eat. It's about how you eat too, right?
Yeah, the book really emphasizes mindful eating.
Okay.
Paying attention to your body's signals and avoiding overeating, which can put a lot of stress on your digestive system.
It seems like everywhere we turn with fibromyalgia, it's all connected.
It really is. It's what makes it so complex.
Right.
And so challenging to manage, but also so fascinating.
Yeah. Definitely. There's no quick fix.
No, there isn't.
But there are so many different paths to explore.
For sure. And it's about finding what works for you.
It's encouraging to know that there are all these options out there.
Yeah.
From traditional medical treatments to these holistic approaches to lifestyle changes.
Absolutely.
It really is a journey of self-discovery, I guess.
It is.
Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure talking about this with you.
I'm so glad we had the opportunity to dive deep into the world of fibromyalgia.
Me too.
It's such a complex condition, but it's clear that there's so much hope out there.
Oh, definitely.
To our listener, thank you so much for sharing your source material with us. We hope this deep dive has been helpful. Before we move on to our final thoughts and takeaways, was there anything else from the book that really stood out to you? Anything we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, there was one more thing that I thought was really important.
Yeah.
The book really emphasized the importance of community and support.
Oh, yeah. They talked about connecting with others who understand what you're going through.
Exactly. Fibromyalgia can be really isolating.
Right.
And it makes such a difference to feel understood and supported.
Yeah.
And luckily, there are so many ways to connect these days. You've got online support groups, forums, even social media groups dedicated to fibromyalgia.
It's like having a whole team of cheerleaders and mentors who are there to help you through the tough times.
Exactly. And sometimes just knowing that you're not alone in this can be really empowering.
For sure.
So to our listener, if you're out there and you're feeling isolated or overwhelmed, please know that there are people who get it and there are resources available. So reach out, connect with others, and build that support system that can help you thrive.
That's such an important message. And it really speaks to the overall tone of the book, I think. It's a message of hope and empowerment and resilience. It's not about giving up. It's about figuring out how to live well with this condition.
Absolutely. And there's no shame in seeking help and support.
Right.
Whether that's from friends and family, online communities, or healthcare professionals. You deserve to feel supported on your journey.
Well said.
Yeah.
This has been such a valuable conversation. Thank you again for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure.
I'm really glad we had this chance to talk about fibromyalgia.
Me too.
To our listener, thank you for sharing your source material with us.
Yes. Thank you.
We hope this deep dive has been helpful and inspiring. Now, before we wrap up completely, I'd love to hear your final thoughts and takeaways from all of this.
Okay, well, as we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with a final thought to ponder.
Great.
We've talked about so many different aspects of fibromyalgia, from the physical symptoms to the emotional impact. But one area that I think deserves a little more attention is the connection between fibromyalgia and creativity.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, it's still kind of an emerging area of research, but there's some anecdotal evidence that suggests people with fibromyalgia often have a heightened sense of creativity and intuition. And some researchers believe that this heightened sensitivity, which can be really tough to deal with in a lot of ways, also opens them up to experiencing the world in a different way.
Okay.
And that by tapping into this creative potential, people with fibromyalgia can find new ways to express themselves, to heal, and even to find joy.
That's a beautiful thought. It's like taking something that's challenging and turning it into a strength.
Exactly.
So to our listener, if you're living with fibromyalgia, I encourage you to explore your creative side.
Yes.
Whether that's writing, painting, music, dance, whatever it might be. Allow yourself to tap into that creative energy and see where it takes you.
You might be surprised.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you again for joining us on this deep dive into fibromyalgia.
It's been my pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel empowered to continue learning about this condition.
Yes, keep learning and exploring. It really has been a fascinating deep dive.
I agree. We've covered so much ground.
But we've really only just scratched the surface.
That's true. Research is constantly evolving. There's still a lot we don't know about fibromyalgia.
Which is why it's so important to stay curious, stay informed, and remember that everyone's experience is unique.
Right. What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. So it's all about finding what works best for you.
And that often means a combination of things, right? Conventional treatments, holistic approaches, lifestyle changes.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about the power of mindset and self-care.
So important.
Cultivating a positive outlook, managing stress, prioritizing self-care.
All those things.
Those things can make a huge difference in managing fibromyalgia and living a good life.
This deep dive has been so insightful. I really hope our listener feels empowered to take an active role in their health journey.
Me too. And as we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. We've talked about the challenges, but it's also important to acknowledge the resilience and strength of those who live with fibromyalgia.
I love that. It's a tough condition, but it doesn't define you.
Exactly. And often the challenges we face can lead to amazing growth and self-discovery.
Yeah.
And a deeper appreciation for life.
Such a powerful message to end on. Thank you again for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listener, thank you for sharing your source material with us. We hope this deep dive has been helpful and inspiring. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep believing in your own strength.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.